Welcome to Signal 1, Protecting and Prioritizing Wellness and Resilience. Our mission is to provide an insightful platform that delves into the critical work of the Connecticut State Police. Through engaging discussions and interviews, we aim to shed light on the tireless efforts of our dedicated professionals and promoting education that focuses on the mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness of our members. Join us, striving to enhance understanding and fostering a healthier, more resilient first responder.
Welcome back to Signal 1 podcast, where we're going to get information from all different aspects of officer safety and wellness. Today, I have the privilege of being interviewed by one of our very own, Lieutenant Josu Dorelis. He is currently the commander of Troop I in Bethany. Lieutenant, thank you so much for calling me to the carpet, and I'm all yours here. Unscripted, unrehearsed, ready to go.
Sergeant, I appreciate you for having me and trusting me with the ability to perform this interview on your behalf.
Absolutely, thank you. It's a pleasure.
So I want to kind of open up the floors and talk a little bit about the S.T.O.P.S program before we get into some heavy material, right?
Sure.
Starting off by touching a bit on the S.T.O.P.S program, your involvement in it before we dive into some deeper topics.
Sure.
Right? Can you talk to me a little bit about what inspired you to get into S.T.O.P.S and the overall mission behind the S.T.O.P.S program?
All right, so I'll answer your second question first. So the mission of the S.T.O.P.S program, right, it's to provide quality peer support. And then do it in a way that it's more proactive than reactive. We've changed the pattern, we've changed the scope of how we do business, and we want to be ahead of the game. And so in our mission statement is to anticipate any stressors that come with law enforcement or being a first responder in general. But providing quality peer support, that's the main thing. And we do that through a network of confidential contacts. And so what got me passionate about peer support is an unfortunate story that oftentimes I use in our part of training. And is when I was a young trooper, sat on the desk one day, and one of my own supervisors shows up to work. And normally he was the type of guy, very charismatic, very outgoing, very happy. Unfortunately, that day he didn't see himself. Myself and the dispatcher throughout the night, we kept going back and forth, trying to compare notes, say, how do we do this? How do we approach it? So I kept walking into the office. Are you okay, Sarge? Is everything good, Sarge? And he was the type of person with such a great heart that every time you come to him and ask him about himself, he would turn it around, make it about you. Unfortunately, the next day, he never showed up to roll call. And when we went out and to search for him, for lack of a better term, he died of self-inflicted gunshot wound to the left side of his head. Mm-hmm. I carried subliminally the responsibility, not the responsibility, but more like the guilt of this man's death. And I made it a personal mission to never again not have the words to communicate, to ask critical questions, to be there for anyone in the type of work that we do. I've made it a personal mission to ensure that not only do I have the words, but I know how to approach a situation, know how to talk to people, and know how to ask those critical questions to get people to open up a little bit about what they do. In this day and age, in 2025, and the way that we've come out of some shadows of the past, there is no way that any of us should be suffering in silence.
Wow. That's actually deep. One thing that did stick out to me is the fact that you mentioned this happened extremely early on in your career. I would assume that the S.T.O.P.S program was in existence back then, right? Do you feel as if there was anything as a program that we could have done back then to prevent that tragedy?
You know, it's circumstantial, and we can always Monday morning quarterback everything. I don't know, because there are people that do very well in hiding their personal issues. Again, we didn't see it coming. Quite frankly, we didn't even know that he had an issue. So, no, I think that the model how we've changed our approach with peer support, being more proactive, does make an impact. There's some other ways that people develop programs, and they're more of the hey, call us when you need us type of thing. It was almost that way in our agency before. Now we're going to be in the forefront. Now we're going to be proactive. So everywhere you look, there's going to be stops, something, peer support, something.
It's funny that you talk about being proactive because it seems that over the last few years, there's been an intentional shift as it pertains to the S.T.O.P.S program, putting it on the forefront, and making sure that as an agency, they're providing the tools and resources to its members. What have you done? And this isn't to knock any previous coordinators or previous administrations throughout the years, but can you talk about that shift and what has been done from an agency standpoint, or even a personal standpoint, as it relates to approaching the S.T.O.P.S program today?
Yeah, so we applaud the efforts of the people that came before us, right? Some of them have laid the foundations. Some of them have made mistakes that we've learned from. And in the progression of any program and your hopes and dreams, like I hope that whoever succeeds me in this position takes the program to a whole new level. So definitely we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? But what we've done is, first of all, solidify the importance of confidentiality and how crucially is important it is that any information that is obtained by a peer support person, a contact or specialist, the training is overwhelming and how important it is to maintain confidentiality. The second thing we've done is minimize exposure, right? So I answer directly to the colonel. There's no middleman, there is no in between, which allows us the opportunity to get stuff done in the most discreet way possible, protecting the integrity of the person. I came to the table with a personal, some personal values and core values. When I sat in the peer support chair for the very first time, I looked at the program and I said, how do we secure success for this program? And I developed my own core values for this. Number one is to protect the integrity of the people that we serve. Number two is protect the integrity of this program. Well, after I leave here and retire, the program has to remain, has to grow, it has to continue its impact. And number three is to protect the integrity of this agency. Whether we like it or not, many of us may have some gripes and complaints about a lot of things that happen or don't happen within our agency. But one thing I know for sure is that we all love it. Because if we didn't love it, we wouldn't be here. And being 19 and a half years already in this agency, absolutely love it. More than loving it, I love the people that I work with. I love what I do because I'm doing it for the people that ultimately have our back. And way after I'm gone, they're going to continue to patrol and service the state of Connecticut where my family may remain. And a whole trooper, nothing beats that. So our focus has changed to do that. I live this thing, Lieutenant. It's not just a position for me. Unfortunately, many people know my background. You know, I was a pastor for many, many years. I'm a minister. And so that really coincides with being a peer support type of person. You know, it almost in my eyes doesn't make a difference. So I bring some type of skin in the game.
These are one of the things that make you unique in this position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even talking to you outside of the cameras, you see the passion that you have for the program. Can you talk about when you entered into the position of the S.T.O.P.S coordinator, how many troopers throughout the agency did we have involved in S.T.O.P.S? And where are we now in terms of the number of certified S.T.O.P.S troopers that we have out on the road?
That's a great question. When I took over the program, I think we had about 45. And then that same year or shortly after that, we dropped probably about 20 because we lost some people to retirements. We've grown those numbers. Currently, I have about 124 in our program. Some people call that bittersweet. My ambition was to grow the program to 20% of our members. And then I had to pull back because for me, the integrity of the program is worth more than the numbers. So I want to make sure that the people that we're bringing in on board have the same school of thought, have the same level of passion and understanding, and we all carry the same philosophy when it comes to saving lives of those that save lives, right? So, yeah, we're big. We're probably the biggest, definitely the biggest in the state, arguably one of the biggest in the nation. I've sat down with coordinators from all over the country, one to be of a very sizable agency. And just to put it in perspective, there's a agency on the other side of the country where there are 20,000 officers and they only have 65 peer support people on their team, one coordinator. That's alarming. So in my philosophy, then I would say the more the merrier. Getting people to be invested, getting people to give their all to this program, will catch those that fall through the crack, or the hope is.
Now, with 120 members that are part of the S.T.O.P.S program, I first and foremost want to say that those numbers are impressive, right? But what is the type of training that goes in to being a member of S.T.O.P.S? And more importantly, how do you go about ensuring that you select the right person for the program?
Yeah, most people don't know what happens behind the scenes, right? So that's a great question for people to understand how we go through the selection process. With that, we get a lot of pushback at times, because what happens with the people that got in trouble in the past? I want them all. We want them all. We want the person with 1 year on the job, and I want the person with 20 years on the job. There is a spectrum of experience, life experience, work experience that is critical to meet the need of anybody at any given time in any tenure.
Yeah.
A lot of the background is that trying to find the right person. So once a year we put out an agency-wide recruitment campaign, and then we get a bunch of applications. I go through all the applications and their supervisor's recommendation, and then they go through a selection process where a panelist, I think we're up to 7 now, so the panel is made up of 7 people. All ranks of our agency is represented. We have clinicians, we have a chaplain on board, and then they just submit to an interview process.
Got it.
Yeah. And then after that, we send them to training. Training is 3 days, sometimes 5 days, depending on what training is available. And then they learn all the intricacies of peer support and a lot of role playing and a lot of scenarios just to get people comfortable with how to approach a situation. And then continuing education, right? I mean, there's a lot of in-service training stuff that we do or we would like to do. A lot of stuff that they hear from me, and just learning about all of the resources that we do have available and how to plug people in.
Got it. Now, I know there's probably a trooper out there that may be interested in S.T.O.P.S, but for whatever reason feel as if they're not ready or they're not capable. What would you say to that trooper? How should they come to making a decision one way or another, whether or not this is something that they want to get involved with?
Listen, I mean, first of all, I would have to say, do you feel like you have the characteristics of being a good peer support person? Trustworthy, reliable, compassionate, empathetic? Then I think you meet the qualifications, right, at face value. Some people, yeah, are hesitant. Maybe is reputation of the program. Maybe is the unruly behavior, for lack of a better term, of another peer person. Or maybe they just don't want to get sucked into the stigma associated with the line of work that we do for first responders. I say if you meet those qualifications and you are passionate about plugging people in, come on board. And your life experiences or your professional experiences mean a lot to me. There are people that we've helped out that have been that have utilized the program and come back and say, I want to give back. You saved my life, you saved my marriage, you saved my career. How could I give back? Those are the type of people we want on the team.
Now, you mentioned the stigma associated with what you do. What is that stigma?
The stigma is twofold, right? First of all, the external stigmas that come with what we do. Every time you talk about mental and emotional health in the law enforcement or in the first responder industry, it's a cliche, right? It's like, no way, because we're expected to be Superman, Superwomen. We're expected to navigate through anything in life. And some people don't give us the grace to be humans anymore. Unfortunately, we still are humans. We're not men of steel, exteriorly, or women. But we do suffer. We have real lives. We have kids. We have relationships. Circumstances in life change. And so we've been watching carefully that stigma almost fall down, right? People are reaching out for help. And it's not a weak thing. It's not a weak thing to seek help from a peer, from a professional. It's not. When our teeth hurt, we go to the dentist. When our body aches, we go see the doctor. But when there's that internal thing that you don't know what's happening, why we're not quick to run to a psychiatrist, a counselor, or a peer to get some help. I think it's more ego then, or this sense of machismo or machisma that doesn't let us cross that path. If we bring down those interior walls, then we'll run to the help sooner than later. And then the internal thing is, what are people going to say? What are people going to say about me? And what do you know, young trooper, about the stresses of this job? Well, maybe I don't, but I do know what it is to be either A, married with children, or have a failed marriage, or deal with substance abuse issues early on in my life. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So nevertheless, experience is much more rewarding than just having the book.
Got it. Now, one key thing you touched on is the time of service that you have. 19 and a half years. Impressive, right? But with that being said, the ability to walk away from it all is right around the corner.
Mm.
Are there any steps that you are taking or that the agency is taking to look into finding that next person that's going to walk into the position, potentially have to fill your shoes? Not only fill your shoes, but also gain the confidence of our personnel.
Yes, that is. I'm not the salve all the time. I mentioned to someone the other day that's why cable has 200 channels, because you pick the one you want, right? So I'm not the salvo. I'm not the guru of peer support. Nor do I fake the funk to try to be. That's the reason why we have 120 something people on our team, and I pick their brains, their level of experiences. That's why we have a steering committee. So I don't make decisions on my own, right? But I think that we've come this far, and we hope to preserve what we've done and then grow on it. So yes, I think the agency is carefully seeking and carefully evaluating who to put in this position. And nevertheless, I know that whoever it is, they're going to have the support. At the very least, they'll have me here to help them navigate through some stuff when they get stuck, and introduce them to a lot. I've done a lot of work in building networks, so they're being introduced to networks that are already established, and then they get to bring in their own network, which is a clutch in itself. So yes, I think that's around the corner, and we're excited to what that's going to look like.
Exciting news.
Yeah.
Now, you've been in this position for some time. There's a lot of time that you spend supporting others, right?
Mm.
I would imagine that takes a personal toll on you, your own mental health. Is that the case? And if so, what are you doing to make sure that you stay on top of things?
Yeah, I'm asked that question quite a bit, especially from other coordinators and clinicians throughout the state. Even the most professional painter ends up getting paint on their person. And I have to be understanding of that. When I first sat on the seat, Lieutenant, I didn't know how to do with that. Nobody taught me. There's really no book. There's not a manual that's going to train you to be a coordinator, right? So when I sat in the seat, I didn't understand that. I had to learn how to take stuff that's being dumped on my lap and put it down. And that doesn't mean not being compassionate or understanding of someone else. That doesn't mean that your issue, that I don't care about it. The reality is that I had to learn how to compartmentalize some stuff. No. And it's really being emotionally intelligent, that knowing that your issue It's not my issue. I have to provide you the service, tie you into a resource, and let it go. And sometimes, unfortunately, because we're human beings, or you may establish a relationship with someone, you may carry that load a little bit too long. No, it takes some time. I have a great network of support, clinicians, peers, people that I can talk to, get some stuff off my plate without divulging or breaking or breaching confidentiality. Clinician, my own, right? And a lot of meditation and prayer, right? To kind of help me detox from some of the stuff. But again, early on, there was some stuff that I carried for quite some time because you want to see people push through. You want to see people through. And it takes a lot of good work. And it takes a lot of faithful commitment to your own personal wellness, because it does take a toll.
Yeah,
for sure.
Now, obviously, you're the face of the program. You are the one that's essentially always helping people or providing them the resources that they need when they're in help, when they're in need of help. But can you describe a point where the line's kind of blurred between you being the helper and needing help yourself?
Absolutely. First, thank you for your vote of confidence, for calling me the face of the program. I'm not. I'm only the coordinator. The face of the program is collectively the 120 something people in this program. They're the ones, collectively, them and I, are the ones that put the right staple on this program. Without them, yourself included, because I know you're a peer as well, without you all, I'll be a disaster. I'll be a failure in what it is that I do. But to answer your question, yes. Because of a compassionate heart, because of the giver kind of characteristic that I have, yes, there was a time where my own life took a big hit. And there was I was in the midst of a lot of uncertainties. There were some dark days that I had to navigate through. And then life happened. Life was lifing, as people say. And, but I had to go back to the little church cliche that we have, hey, you got to practice what you preach, right? So I had to tap into my own program, and I had to utilize this program for what it was. And if I was the spokesperson for this program, and I was encouraging people in our own ranks to use it, and I was pushing this agenda out there, hey, get in touch with our own resources. If I can do that for another, then I should be doing that for myself. And I did, and it worked. So now I'm not only from the commercial from back in the days, Hair Club for Men. I'm not only the president, but I'm also a client. I believe in the program. I leaned on our peers. I used our resources, and I came out on the other side.
So in that response, you kind of alluded to a point where you yourself were in crisis.
100%.
At one point, right?
Yeah.
If you're comfortable, can you walk us through that moment? What led you to that point, and what was the immediate response from any initial contact from members of this agency?
Yeah, I mean, life happens. You never know when the brutality of this job catches up to you. I'm thinking I'm doing good. I have a great support system. I'm on top of the world. We have our resources, and some people are heavy on the workouts. Some people do well with nutrition. Other people are heavy in their spirituality. I thought that I had a great combination of everything, until stuff just starts popping up. Things start coming up to the surface. Whether there were work traumas that I thought it's just another body, right? It's just another thing. And we don't know, we really don't understand how our body's actually keeping count, and that stuff starts to resurface. And then personal issues start. I'm in the brink of a critical juncture in my life, and I have to service other while still dangling or going through a very brutal divorce in my own life, right? And being a single dad to an amazing young girl. And I personalized that so people could understand, hey, there are some of us that can identify with your crisis. I just took experience and said, I can't do this alone. I can't continue to suffer in crisis. And then, so I found the 2 or 3 that I was very confident in, and the 2 or 3 that I trusted. and we work together. So that response has been absolutely amazing. And when I thought, Lieutenant, that I was going to be fully exposed, when I thought that the agency I was going to be the lamb that got slaughtered. Let's just be honest with that, right? I said, I'm out here dangling and I'm going to be the lamb that got slaughtered. No, sir. It actually turned 180 degrees around and I got overwhelming support from people that I thought weren't going to have my back. So for anybody that's watching or listening that thinks, man, if I put my dirty laundry out there, somebody's going to take that and run with it. No, I've been the recipient of a well-established and well-seasoned peer support program.
So, fortunately for you, in that moment of crisis, you had a great understanding of the S.T.O.P.S program, all the resources that they had in place to support you in that moment. Do you feel agency-wide our members know of the resources that S.T.O.P.S can provide?
No. And it's unfortunate.
And why do you think that is?
I think that at the onset, right, we do a good job as almost in the introduction of the program. So at the academy level, we're there orientation there. We're there a couple of times throughout the academy. And I've been making it more of a point to be more present and reiterate the significance of the S.T.O.P.S program, and reiterate the usage, utilizes what it is that you need. But no, I think that in the cusp of things, agency-wide, it's not that the program or the resources being minimized. I just think that, for example, sir, we go to the range annually to ensure that we're proficient with our firearms. We go to in-service annually or biannually to make sure that we know how to pump on a chest in the time of need. We got to keep refreshed with policies and legislation. But where are those that are thinking, how do we keep the mind and the heart, the emotions of our personnel sharp? When we know, historically and scientifically, it's proven that when you're not sharp in the mind and your emotions are out of whack, you're just not good at what you do.
Exactly.
I don't care if you're a librarian or you're the head honcho in any organization. If emotionally and mentally you're not at an even keel, if you're not being educated on what those signs and symptoms associated with stressors and trauma, how that can manipulate your life, then you're going to be in rough shape. And I think that we can do a better job with that. And I'm hoping that the next shift in this year and the remainder of the year and the direction that we're taking the program, I'm hoping that we do start making that difference and bringing that awareness.
So you're saying that there is a plan to spread the message in terms of the resources that S.T.O.P.S has for its members?
There is a plan. So earlier this year, we dropped out, we put out a survey agency-wide. And the purpose of that survey was to get feedback. I want to know what's right with the program, but I want to also know what's wrong with the program. What's right, we can continue to do right or improve on. But what's wrong, most people don't have the backbone to admit, yes, this is wrong. How do we fix it? So we did get some good feedback because I got a spectrum of both. People were not afraid to say, this is what's wrong with the program. Can we do something about it? And yeah, absolutely. So now we put the thinking tank together, and now we're going to really construct a plan on how it is that we can inform our people to reach out in the time of need and the importance of doing that.
Now, focusing on that survey,
Yeah.
what are some things that you were able to learn from that in terms of what could be fixed or what could be improved within S.T.O.P.S? What is the key takeaway? What are our members looking for?
So one of the first things that survey highlighted was the internal issues that I have, because a well amount of people said, I don't know how to activate S.T.O.P.S, or I don't know what S.T.O.P.S does. That bothered me, right? Because I think that we've been trying to do the right job of getting the message out. This is what we're here for. This is what we do. So I can appreciate, sir, that sometimes some people just don't know the details, what the program entails and what we are able to do or not to do. So I think that the first step is to educate the people within the peer support program a little bit better.
Mm.
Because if somebody doesn't know how to activate the program, then you're not standing out as a peer, right? And so as a program, we need to take inventory and accountability of what we're doing wrong as individuals within the program. So if I'm not standing out as a peer support contact, if not representing my program with the highest level of integrity and ethics, and if I'm not doing my due diligence of following up and communicating with people, then we need to fix that. And then externally, I need to do a better job in really campaigning the program.
Moving forward, what is your vision for S.T.O.P.S over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Like, where do you see S.T.O.P.S in 2 decades from now?
That's a great question. And it's a challenging one to think, right? Because most people could only think at face value what's in front of them. I think that an emphasis on suicide prevention and awareness is going to be key for us in the upcoming years. I also believe that growing the program and being aware of what the program offers is going to be clutch for us. So no longer would a member of this agency say, I don't know what they do. We can't afford that. So within the next year, 2, 3, 5 years, we need this entire agency from the top to the bottom needs to have a clear understanding of what the peer support program is, what resources they offer, what we can and can't do in the days of or in the times of crisis, and then really create a standard, really the standard of excellence when it comes to peer support, educating our people, and then having critical stuff in place, a transition program. Right now we have, and the good thing is that we're collaborating heavily with the wellness program. So we have to develop a transitioning program. We have men and women, over 200 here in the next few years that are getting ready to leave this career and go to something else. How do you transition? How do we resolve that? Myself included, right? There's another level of anxiety and worries that comes with we're walking away from a thing that we love, that this is all we've done for 20 years. Transition program is key. Sharpening the mental and emotional wellness of our people is another huge thing. And reconfiguring the culture of this agency. It's the big lift. So where I see us 5, 10 years from now, if this is continued and it's doing well, the reshaping of the culture of this agency.
So culture shifts, right? I'd like to think, and I could be wrong, you let me know if I'm wrong, that today there's significantly more buy-in as it relates to S.T.O.P.S, mental health services for you as an individual. Do you think that is the case, or do you think we're still being met with resistance?
I think it is the case. And then there are some circumstances where resistance is met. Yes. Do people talk more, or is there a generational kind of shift where people are more apt to speaking about what is happening internally or externally? Yeah, yes. Are there some other people in the area that are still not sure about it? Yeah, of course. Again, if we emphasize the importance of educating our people and shifting the culture of our agency, so whether or not you believe in mental health is irrelevant to me. I really don't care. But for those that do believe it, and those that are really compassionate about having people with mental and emotional sharpness, then respect that. Keep your opinions to yourself about whether or not a program works or doesn't, and let those that are going to utilize the program or see the value in a program, let them emphasize, let them use that, let them emphasize the importance of that. There are things that I agree with in this agency, and there are things that I don't agree with this agency, and that's irrelevant. I'm gonna let those things that I don't or have the control to change or agree with, I'm gonna let them go. Or when I'm able to voice an opinion of how we can change that, I'll voice it. But yeah, I mean, I hope I answered that question in a summary.
No, you didn't.
That, yeah, I mean, we are still in the crest of two worlds, and but do I feel that we're turning? Yes, and it's happening quicker than I thought.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I guess my final question would be simply this. Somewhere out there, whatever department, right, whether it be state police or local partners or federal partners, there's someone out there essentially suffering in silence right now that wants to seek help, but for whatever reason feels as if they'll be met with judgment or some type of career consequence, right? What do you say to that person that's in a position where they need help, they want to speak up, but for whatever reason, they just remain silent?
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to. We've done a lot of good work. We've helped dozens. To put it into perspective, last year, collectively, the peer support program reported, now I'm talking about reported contacts, 1,545 contacts for the year. Record high. Never seen anything like it before because people are utilizing the program. For the one or two stories that people get, you're most likely getting that from the member themselves or stuff that's unavoidable, stuff that's already been made public. But 1,545 contacts that have remained confidential, that have been remained internal, that's pretty good. You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to sit there and try to figure it all out on your own. I call relationships the currency of heaven, right? That's the reason why we have one another. And if you don't trust a peer support person and you trust your wingman, reach out to your wingman. Reach out to a supervisor. Reach out to a family member, a clinician, but do something. The help is there. But for those that do trust in the program, lean on us. Understand that we're going to put you in the right place and walk with you as much or as little as they want. But we're going to walk with you to make sure that you make it out on the other side. And that's important. There's nothing that anyone is going through that's new under the sun. We literally have dealt with it all. Whether it's substance abuse issues, family issues, relationship issues, on the work issues, motivation, morale issues, you name it, gambling issues, we've done it, we've dealt with it, we've helped people recover. Nobody's story is more impactful or more damaging than the other. We've all been there at some point or the other. Thank goodness we had a network of people to help us get through.
Wow. Well, Sergeant Valdes, I hope I did you justice by conducting this interview, but you really shed a lot of light on the S.T.O.P.S program, but more importantly, your driving passion behind it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir, for this challenge. I appreciate it.